Greetings, folks, and welcome to the CODEC Show, episode number 13, fall semester 2017. Let's give it a hand, everybody. Actually, you're just giving yourselves a hand. Thank you for coming to this College of DuPage Entrepreneurship Club, located here on the beautiful campus of the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. I like to think it's probably one of the top two community colleges in the country. So those of you who don't really know that's where you're sitting at right now, kudos to you. Maybe you know now. Maybe tell a friend to come take entrepreneurship class with Peter James. Anyway, that's another plug altogether, of course. So those of you who are watching on YouTube, welcome, of course. This is episode number 2 for this fall semester of 2017. But also our second full year of video taping our YouTube video on YouTube, of course. So thank you and welcome for being here as well. Of course, our goal here is to expose students and local community members to entrepreneurs and small business owners. By them sharing their story, we'll show how entrepreneurship is definitely an option when your education is complete. And today we have a great guest. I am so excited for Katie to be here. Katie, if I'm slaughtering your last name, would you tell it Katie Sowa?
Correct, yeah.
Katie is from an organization called Future Founders. Future Founders is located in downtown Chicago. Actually, is that considered River North?
Yeah.
River North, Chicago, in the Merchandise Mart. Many of you are familiar with the Merchandise Mart. So Katie, first of all, welcome to the CODEC Show. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
I saw you, how long ago? Over the summer.
Yeah.
It was good. I went to an event they had over the summer with some high school students. So Katie, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from first, and then we'll dive into Future Founders, if that's okay. So a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I went to Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois. So kind of the middle of nowhere, Illinois, and that's where I actually got into entrepreneurship. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was going to school. My entire life I've danced, so I've been like a dance teacher, was on the dance team, and I thought I wanted to do something in the performing arts, maybe open a performing arts studio, but it was really during college, actually in an entrepreneurship club like this, where I started to dive into entrepreneurship, and I realized it was just a really good fit for me. I really liked the people, I really liked the opportunities, I liked the idea of entrepreneurship. So I got super involved, became kind of on the leadership track of my school entrepreneurship club, ended up working for a technology commercialization center, which turned into a technology incubator. So we worked with really high-end technology companies, like med tech companies, ag tech companies, adults that had invested their entire life savings into building a new product, and we would actually help them kind of take it to market. So I was around when this incubator building was built. I had to wear hard hats. My name is on the back of refrigerators that are still in this building today. But that led me to actually be recruited for my first startup. So I worked, this is gonna date me, but back in the day, when iPods were really big, we were an iPod repair company. And we branched off into gaming systems and phones, but we would actually take in people's broken iPods or gaming systems, refurbish them, and then resell them. So I was around employee number 20, and we got up to around employee 50 to 70 by the time that I left, and that was in a matter of less than 6 months. So I was hired to do all of their financial HR pieces, and at that time I decided to go back to school. I really loved entrepreneurship. I wanted to dive more into it. I went to DePaul downtown and started working kind of in the entrepreneurship education space. Never a space that I thought I would be in. I thought I wanted to do venture capital. And yeah, so I've kind of been in this industry now for a while, and that's kind of blends into what I do today.
Sweet, sweet. So Katie, actually, when I go back about maybe almost a couple years now, at least a year and a half, with your organization, Future Founders. So segue that now, of course, into Future Founders, and tell us a little bit about the organization, and then maybe a little bit about what you do with the organization as well.
So Future Founders, we are a nonprofit based downtown, actually in 1871. So 1871 is one of the largest incubators in North America. I think there's about 400 to 500 members or individual companies on any given day. So that's a lot of companies working in a shared space. But we are a nonprofit, and we work with student entrepreneurs. So kind of our mission, our motto is that we believe every youth can become an entrepreneur. and we work with students as young as 7th grade all the way through students kind of beyond college. We have a lot of different programming, a lot of activities going on depending on what age and what stage you are. And in particular, I actually joined Future Founders a couple of years ago to start and launch our collegiate division, which is Future Founders Startup. So now today, and this is about like 3.5-ish years later, almost 4 years later, it's about half the size of our organization. So it went from nothing to now it's features a pretty strong component of what we do. And it's actually a national organization. So we work with students like yourself across the country on any given day. So this is kind of like my life and what I do. I work with people like you who are trying to like get their idea off the ground, who are trying to grow their business. And we have a lot of different activities, a lot of different programming, a lot of different opportunities, all for free. So that's like really the cool part. We do everything for free for schools, for students. We, as a nonprofit, do all the hard work to fundraise from really large corporations who tend to be very generous, like Capital One, Motorola, Blackstone, Google, and then different foundations. So yeah,
cool.
That's a little bit about us.
That's kind of loaded as well. So
yeah.
I'm excited about you being here because the CODEC, our club here, we love to partner with you guys and what you guys are doing as well. And I think it definitely benefits each one of us individually. Tell us about some of the activities really quick, if you don't mind. Share some examples, if you could, because the students are hearing one thing, but they're like, "What? That's loaded what you said."
Exactly.
So give us some examples if you could.
Sure. So we have a lot of things going on at any given time. One thing is called our ePass. This is essentially, you can think of it as like a curated newsletter with access to things in the community. So we do our part to kind of filter what's going on and what real entrepreneurs are actually doing. We leverage our power as an organization to get you access to these things. So these could be free events that are going on, discounted tickets, kind of like an awareness of what you need to know. Like, what are other people doing? So by the time you leave College of DuPage, you already know what's going on in the community. You don't have to restart. So you can kind of view us as like your student support or even like alumni support for entrepreneurial career services. That's really what we're geared up towards. So we've had students that have used this either to attend one event, to attend a ton of events. We actually had one student most recently. One of our partners is General Assembly, and he took access of our ePass, took a bunch of classes to learn, I think it was coding and digital marketing, and actually just opened up his own side hustle to start like building people websites and helping them market it. So through the ePass, basically attending events, he started his own business. It's not like rocket science, it's pretty easy to do. So that's like our easiest program. And again, you can go on our website. I have some information up here, but it's futurefounders.com. Sign up for free. We're not gonna spam you, this is just like to help you. We also have a elevator pitch competition, which I know some of you have heard of. It's called UPitch, really cool. We bring together the top, so actually applications are open, so you could be part of this group, but we bring together the top college student entrepreneurs across the country to pitch 90 seconds for the chance to win part of $10,000 in cash. So that's gonna take place actually downtown in 1871 on November 16th. Like I said, applications are open now. You literally have to just film a 90-second video on your business or your idea, and you could be entered to win. So it's really cool. We have students that compete from arts all the way through technology. It's even if you don't want to pitch, you can come and like we have food and drinks, and you can like meet. There's a couple hundred people from the community, other students who are like working on businesses. So it's pretty cool to see what's going on. We also have a fellowship program, which is a year-long. Think of it as like a virtual accelerator for students who are running businesses. And this is like, you would stop everything tomorrow to run your business if you're not already doing that. Those are the kinds of people that we work with in this program. A little bit of kind of like data on this program. Out of our first 2 cohorts, so we're currently running our 3rd year of the program. Our first 2 cohorts consisted of about 25 students. 92% of them today are still running their business, which is a pretty good stat. Yeah. They have raised over $1 million in capital collectively, generated over $3 million in revenue. They've created over 40 full-time jobs and over 90 part-time jobs. So that's like real economic impact. And the coolest thing is those are like your peers. Those are people that are going to school, that are trying to like start something, that are actually doing that. You don't have to wait 10, 20 years to get experience to actually make an impact, which is the coolest thing. And I'll add on one more program, which is actually our newest one. We're starting a pilot program thanks to the generosity of a grant we received from Blackstone. And they're a very large real estate organization. They actually just bought out the Sears Tower. But we are starting, it's called the Chicago Cohort. It's a pilot program for people, maybe like yourself, who have an idea or a very early stage with your business. So you have an idea, you're getting ready to launch. Applications are open now to be a part of this program. That'll start in January. It'll be 6 months. You can definitely still go to school while you do this program, but we'll have activities every month to help you kind of progress a little bit quicker to get towards that launch stage or a little bit after launch. And we'll partner you up with mentors. You'll have really cool peer opportunities, as well as some, I'd say cash grants, stipend dollars to be able to dedicate to your business to help you work on it. So that's just I would say a sampling of what we do. And we're obviously just a resource for you. So if you don't know how to get started or if you don't know where to go, reach out to me, reach out to organization, and we're here to help you.
Thank you. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. In my classes, my entrepreneurship class especially, I teach students, I like to think I teach students the theory of entrepreneurship, what it takes to run it. Here at the club, we bring you one step closer to what's actually going on outside in the entrepreneurship world. Katie's a great example of an organization that was willing to partner with each of you individually to help your businesses grow and succeed. So it's not just about learning about what it takes to run your business. Now it's about actually executing. So that's kind of cool. So I'm in the process, we're getting ready to pass the baton over to Katie, because I told you this is going to be a little bit different. Today, Katie's got a great exercise that she can show you, give you a small snippet about what goes on with future founders. So any other comments before we get started?
No, I guess, does anyone have any questions?
Any questions about future founders? Yes, sir.
Is this your full-time job, or do you have
My
job?
For right now, it's my full-time job. Yes, this is what I focus on all the time. Yeah, good question.
Good question. Somebody else. I know you guys got questions. Don't be bashful. Yes, sir.
So does your organization help in networking, or is that okay?
Yes, we do. So we help provide opportunities for you to either network with existing groups or even network within, I would say, your collegiate peer community. So one example, actually, if anyone's free next Tuesday, we have a happy hour at our office. So you can take the train on downtown. That's how I get downtown every day. Take the train on. It's 4:30 to around 7 p.m. at our office. We have probably close to 100 people that'll be showing up just to hang out and network and meet other people. So yeah, that's definitely part of it.
I think I'm going to that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think so.
Come hang out with us.
Is that exactly?
When is this?
Yeah.
Next Tuesday. So I think that's the 10th, October 10th.
So it's actually probably a week and a half.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so.
Maybe not next week, the week after that. My days are all jumbled. But yes, October 10th from, I think it's 4:30 to 7 at 1871 in the Merchandise Mart. So come and hang out.
That was actually a good question about networking. Those of you who are even remotely interested in starting your business, your bashful days are over. Okay, so you got to really put yourself out there in events such as this, or even networking with each other in order to figure out ways. For those of you in my entrepreneurship class, I always say surround yourself with other individuals who are like-minded, so that you can move forward on that same path. And Katie's an example of that, and just even being here is an example of you beginning that process as well.
Yeah, and I've been in all of your shoes. I know what it's like to be in school, to have an idea, try to be starting it, be in a club or this kind of environment, and it's not easy. It's challenging, and you have a lot of other stuff that you're dealing with on top of own personal fears or whatever that might mean for you. But honestly, this time of your life is the best and easiest time to start a business. First of all, the fact that you're students, you can always play the student card, and people are always willing to help you. Once you get to be an adult, people don't help other adults as easily, right? It just doesn't work that way. Plus, you have a lot less responsibility than you will once you're reliant on a full-time job, on a family, on everything. Right now, you have time carved out for school, and school is meant to help you learn and grow. So use this as an opportunity to learn and grow. Whether your business is something you want to pursue full-time, whether it's something you just want to help maybe pay for tuition, help you get to a certain point, or even if it's a way that you want to build some skills to make you more marketable for that job opportunity.
Questions? Okay, without further ado, we're going to pass the baton over to Katie
All
right
right.
now. She's got an exercise. Really looking for you guys to participate as well. Those of you watching the studio audience, hopefully, actually behind the camera that is, hopefully you'll be able to understand and kind of get a grasp of what Future Founders holds.
So today I want to focus a little bit on ideation. So ideation is something that no matter what you're doing, whether you're working for a company, whether you are starting your own company, is something that you're going to have to get very comfortable with doing. This could even be for a class project. Does anyone know what ideation is? No? All right, we'll get to it. But first I'm going to kind of take you through a little example so we can kind of get in the right frame. So I'm going to tell you a story. It might be kind of hard to see, but this is basically, it's like a truck, a semi-truck that's stuck under the bridge, if you can kind of tell by the half of the photo. So there was a situation where the truck was too big, too tall, went under this bridge without the right kind of height clearance and got stuck. All of these onlookers came. We had engineers, the truck drivers, the companies, the truck drivers, firemen, everybody came because this was a huge problem. Traffic is backing up. Everyone, all of these experts are trying to figure out how do we take this truck out of the bridge. Okay, so if we were to chip away at the bridge, that means it's going to cause construction problems. We need to get an architect out here. We can dent in the truck, but then that's going to damage the truck and the company and whatever is inside the truck. Some random kid comes along, looks at the situation and goes, why don't you just let the air out of the tires and pull the truck forward? Very simple, right? But sometimes when you're in your element and you're so focused on what you know so well, you don't think of the obvious solutions. And that's where ideation comes in. So ideation is really, sometimes you think of this as brainstorming. It's coming up with new ways to actually solve a problem. Again, seems kind of obvious, and you probably do this in your everyday life, but sometimes we get stuck in a rut. And a lot of times you'll hear people who are working on a business as you're working in the business, not on the business, right? So that means you get stuck doing the daily activities over and over again without actually looking at the business and how the business should grow. How do we take it to the next level? How do we implement a new product or start to find new customers? We get so focused on what we're doing that we don't have time to plan that strategy and growth behind it. So we're going to kind of start to practice some techniques that'll hopefully on a regular basis we can use to get us out of those ideas. Now, how many of you have heard of design thinking? Yeah, heard of design thinking? It's essentially a system for solving problems, figuring out what the problem is and finding new and useful solutions for it. And it's this entire process. It's almost like you can think of it a scientific process. And actually, this is really trendy. A lot of very large companies use this. I think it's IBM, Apple, Lego, big companies have now resorted to using design thinking as a way to come up with new problems and solve new problems. So if you look at this, you can kind of see it's like a cycle. And the reason it's a cycle is because it never ends. You will never be done with this. This is completely ongoing. And specifically what we're going to focus on today is the ideation part. So this happens in the process. You might have a problem, find there's a need, find there's a pain point. After you've already defined what that problem is, this is where these ideation techniques that we're going to work on today are going to come into play. Okay? Make sense? All right, question, yeah?
So is ideation the first step of the cycle, or is discover the problem?
Normally, so it is kind of blended depending on where you're at, right? So if you could already be at a part where you have to prototype something, and maybe that's where it kind of starts. So there should actually be a lot of lines. You could be here and have to go back here. It's a never ending. This is not the perfect diagram, but most of the time it does start with the discovering of it and kind of ends with evaluating it. So either you evaluate it, think of the scientific method. You start with that, what's the problem, come up with a hypothesis, and then it goes through, you do the experiment, and either the experiment gives you a result that you're good with and you kind of exit, or you go back to the drawing board. And that's kind of what this is meant to identify. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions about this? All right. So really when we look at this, we have the problem. The problem comes down to how we define it and how we look at it. And this is how we interpret ideation. So in reality, when we think of design thinking and how we use ideation, if this was a situation, it is not about building a better mousetrap, building a better pair of scissors, but we actually need to look at the problem in itself, which would be how to find a better way to cut paper or how to find a better way to catch a mouse. It's not about keeping like locked into that box of what we already know, but thinking about all of the limitless possibilities that even might seem kind of crazy, okay? So a lot of this is going to be unlearning what you think you already know. And it's going to really force you to get out of your comfort zone, especially when you are working on a problem for a business that you've been working on for a long time, because you've come accustomed to a certain set of rules, a certain way of doing things. But to do ideation well, you have to get a little bit crazy. And the biggest thing about ideation is that you have to have a lot of ideas. This is not about having a brainstorming session, someone says a good idea and we're like, we're done. We need to go through a lot of processes to come up with as many possible solutions, so that way we can start to see what trends across the board, or maybe one thing blends with another thing, and that's how we get the best idea, okay? So this is not typical brainstorming, it's gonna be a little bit different. But we're going to start with 3 rules. So we're actually going to get into some different ideation techniques that you're going to get to practice, but there's 3 rules for this, okay? The first one, there's no judging, okay? You cannot look down on someone for their idea. There is no bad idea. You cannot criticize anyone at this point in the process. Even things that seem kind of crazy are acceptable in the ideation process, so no judging. Second one, you need to stay focused. A lot of times these techniques kind of like are fun and silly and kind of bring in new ideas, but stay focused on what you're doing. What is the point? What is it that we're trying to ideate on? So pay attention and try to like rein yourself in. And last, like I mentioned earlier, all ideas are good ideas, okay? So even if you think that it might not make sense, it's kind of stupid, just say it, because that could be the best idea of the day, okay? So don't judge others, don't judge yourself, don't have any like restrictions at this point. Sound good? All manageable? Okay. So what I want you to do is you're gonna get into groups, let's see, there's like 30 of you. So get into groups of 5. All right, we're gonna actually get into groups. Even if you don't know them, find the 5 closest people, 5-ish closest people next to you. And I need you to send 1 representative up to me. Now does everyone have 2 pieces of paper? Okay, so we're gonna pretend we're now the founders of this new company, all right? So again, this ideation phase can happen at any point in the process. For right now, just to make sure we're all on the same page, because we may know each other, we may not, we're basically setting the stage. So someone from your team basically just picked out what your new company is. You should have an idea or a product, and you should have a target market. So, for example, I'll see what's remaining. All right, so the thing that's remaining is teenagers and pillows. Okay, so in this setting, my company would be trying to sell pillows to teenagers. It doesn't matter how crazy it is, we're taking ownership of it. So maybe I know that teenagers need a certain kind of sleep. I'm gonna invent this like new kind of pillow that's gonna help them get 8 hours of sleep so they can wake up feeling refreshed so they don't have like a food coma all day at school. Okay, so this is my idea. So what I want you to do as a team, kind of read through this, and this is your problem statement, your like needs statement, okay? Your problem is going to be how to sell, insert product here, to insert market here. So for me, it would be, my problem is how am I going to sell pillows to teenagers, okay? So take like 30 seconds, regroup so you all are on the same page and know what you're doing. So we're gonna get into, hopefully, if we have time, we're gonna bring it on in, you'll have plenty of time to talk. So the importance is not to be so specific with your idea. Remember, this is kind of vague at this point because there's a lot of different routes we could go, okay? So we're gonna do hopefully 4 different ideation techniques today. Hopefully we'll have enough time to get through all of them. Some of them we're gonna be doing individually, which then will kind of bring our reports back to the group. Some of them we are gonna be doing together as a group. So hopefully, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, it would be great if you had paper and like a pencil. If not, do your best to just memorize whatever we're thinking, okay? Or you can probably use like the whiteboard or something as a team. Okay, but these are the 4 techniques we're gonna get into, and there are a million ideation techniques out there. These are just 4 very different ones that we're gonna go over today. So hopefully you can kind of start to put this into your toolkit and start to employ this no matter what you're doing, whether you're working on a class project, working for a company, working on your own idea, at any phase that you get stuck, these are ideas that can help you get out of that rut, okay? So they are the worst idea, brain writing, the superhero technique, and picture prompts. All right, so the first one, the worst idea. And I'm going to explain the rules and then we'll get into it, so you don't have to worry about kind of getting started right away. So the idea of this comes from the fact that bad ideas, or I should say seemingly bad ideas, are not always bad. That they can be good ideas. Maybe they require a couple of tweaks, or there's some good like inherently in it that people haven't thought about before. So what you're going to do is I'm going to give you about a minute to individually brainstorm as many bad ideas, again, related to your problem statement, related to your target, trying to sell your product to your target market, as possible. So in my case, I would try to come up with how many bad things that I could come up with for trying to sell pillows to teenagers. So that could be like, I'm going to go and get rocks, and those are going to be the pillows that I then repackage because they're super cheap and I can just go out here to the school and take them, right? Bad idea. No one's going to use a pillow or like as a rock, or a rock as a pillow, okay? But I want to come up with things that are as crazy as possible, okay? Things that in a real world situation would be terrible, but as many bad things as possible, okay? After you have a minute to do that, that's going to be done independently. So everyone's going to like write down as many bad things that they can think of, or like just think about it and kind of keep it in your mind. I'll give you a couple of minutes to then look at your list or think about your list of bad ideas and talk about how you could, and we'll kind of do this to the group. So we'll open up to sharing of like, my bad idea was to, you know, use rocks as pillows. And then we'll kind of talk about, well, maybe that could be turned into something good because, so I wanted rocks because they were free and I know where to get them. So what other things are free and I know where to get? Oh, maybe like waterbed pillows. Like water is free and I can go to the lake and like fill up a bag of, like make it a pillow. I don't know. That's just, I'm just saying this. I know it's not good, but that's what we're going to start to get into. Maybe turning it around into the opposite, kind of talking through the situation. So maybe what was a terrible idea is not super terrible anymore. Needs work still, but this is one ideation technique, okay? So I'm going to give you 60 seconds to independently brainstorm as many bad ideas for your subject as possible, okay? Ready, go. So did you come up with like the next $1 million idea? Anyone yet? How was that? Harder, easier than you thought? What did you think of that technique? Pretty fun? Any other thoughts? Everyone thought it was pretty fun? All right, fair enough. Maybe you'll have more thoughts for the next one. All right, so we're going to move on. Now, in a real setting, you could spend a lot of time on this, right? You could spend a half hour, you could spend an hour just really diving into it. You could have, 15 minutes where you go and sit by yourself and kind of brainstorm as many ideas as possible to then bring back to the group and spend a really long time dissecting these ideas, kind of letting that snowball into other things. So the biggest thing is that, remember, we want to get as many solutions as possible. So it's not, the point is not to decide on the best one out of this conversation. It would be like, look at all of like the 10 things that we came up with, and we're going to hold on to them and kind of like keep them on the side. A lot of times you'll see in like startups, they'll have like a billion Post-it notes on a wall, or they'll write all over like the dry erase boards and like leave it there so they can revisit it. It's not about doing it and being done. We want to like hang on to this thought process. But we're going to move on for sake of time to the next idea, okay? So can we like try to get, does everyone have a piece of paper, or can like borrow a piece of paper if possible? Can you borrow a piece of paper from a team member? If anyone has it, or write on like the back of one of these things if you have it, if you can. If you have a pencil or pen to participate. If not, work with a partner next to you who does. All right, so this one is called brain writing. So this is going to start off independent, and then again, it'll be kind of sharing as a group, okay? So what'll happen is silently, so you have your problem, your needs statement again, so I'm trying to sell pillows to teenagers. I would write down on my piece of paper a solution that I have for it. So in this case, maybe I still want to sell like rocks as pillows. I'm going to write that as my solution, okay? What's going to happen, and it's very quick. The idea is not to like think about this too much, but to like do what comes to mind. We're going to pass it to the person on our right, So you get about 15 seconds to write it down, pass it to the person on your right. That person reads it, adds to that solution. I'm not changing it, so if I got this and it was, my neighbor was like rocks as pillows, I may think that is like ludicrous, but maybe I say they're like a sedimentary rock because that is the softest kind of rock, right? So I'm just adding to it. And then you're going to pass it to the person on your right until it goes around the whole circle and everyone has had a chance to add on to the previous person's idea, okay? So again, this is just writing down. I'm not saying it out loud. I just want to write it and pass and share, okay? And then at the end, we will talk about it. Yes?
Do like one bad idea per group, or does
It doesn't even have to be a bad idea. It could be a good idea. Hopefully this is like good ideas. So bad ideas aside, so maybe my idea should have been like, I'm selling it to kids during their lunch period, and then I'm going to pass it over. So it would be one per person, and then we pass it to the person next to us. Does that make sense? So kind of like a round robin internally in your group. So if you have 5 people, it should get around back to the starting person. If you have 3 people, you know, get around to everybody. Okay, so everyone starts with their own silent solution that they came up with, pass it to the next person, that person silently reads to it and adds to it. So once you get your own back, you look at it, and now you should have all these ideas that are built into your idea. So like any skill, as you can see, some of these ideation techniques are all different, but you have to practice them. Just like, you know, Michael Jordan practiced basketball a lot to get that like 2-pointer, like you need to do the same thing with ideation techniques. Like practice them so it becomes second nature, and that way you don't have to worry about like how to do it. You're just worried about the results. So this is another one. I want you to keep this in your back pocket, but it really is about building on each other's ideas, because who knows how something could snowball. And this can be used for any size group. But the next one that we're going to do collectively as a group. I want everyone to pick a superhero. So superhero, you have who it is. I'm going to go with Batman for mine, all right? This technique, you have your problem. So I'm trying to sell pillows to teenagers. I need to put myself in the shoes of Batman. How would Batman solve this problem? Batman would probably find a teenager in distress who is like exhausted, going through the hallways. He can barely stay awake. He'd probably swoop in, drop a pillow right in front of him, find like a cozy spot for him, and like block off all the teachers, all the security guards, so that way the student can like take a nap, right? That's how I feel maybe Batman, did I say Superman? I don't know. Batman is going to solve this problem. So as a group, I want you to kind of like brainstorm an ideal situation of how whatever superhero you picked as a team would solve this problem. Now, when you actually do this technique, what you could do is everyone could pick their own superhero, everyone comes up with their own scenario, figures out how to solve it. You could come up with a lot of different superheroes. So you could go through like the whole like Marvel collection of superheroes and how would each of them solve it. Like they'll have their different kind of like traits, right, of like what they do, how they act. So just to get the hang of it, collectively as a group, you already picked your superhero. I'm going to give you a minute to kind of snowball a scenario off of each other of how they would solve your problem. Okay, go for it. So now this one, your groups may be a little big for it, but we'll just go with it. It'll work. Okay, so this last one that we're going to do is picture prompts. So this is how can other things start to inspire new ideas. So what I'm going to do is I am going to show you a series of 4 pictures. So we might not have time for everyone to share, but we'll make it work. So again, hopefully you still have that piece of paper or use your phone, something to like jot down some notes. When I show you these 4 pictures, I will tell you when to switch to each one. We're going to start with 1, go to 2, then 3, then 4. I'll give you about 15 seconds to 30 seconds for each one. So focus on that picture, number 1. Write down as many things that are kind of like inspired by it, as many things that like come to mind related to your problem, okay? And then at the end, we'll have a chance to share what like our findings were for each picture. So you're going to notice that some of these situations, some of these pictures are maybe going to be more relevant to what you're doing than other ones, but still trying to think of like, use like your 5 senses almost and like imagine either yourself in the shoes of what's going on in this situation. What does it like look like? What does it remind you of? Anything that it might inspire, okay, related to solving your problem. So again, give you about 15 seconds, and I'll call time for when you need to switch to the other one, but we're going to start with picture number 1 first, okay? Make sense? All right, ready? So picture 1, upper left corner, write down as many things that come to mind based on picture number 1. All right, we're switching. Picture number 2. It's like a forest, someone in a forest, if it's hard to see. So focus on picture number 2. Remember, don't filter yourself. Just write down or think about whatever comes to mind. All right, we're switching. Number 3. It's like a little girl sleeping on a shelf. And last one, number 4. It's some people in a car, having fun in a car ride. All right, so now we're going to take a minute to share our findings, okay? So I know we probably have like a million more things we could share or could now like snowball and we can think about it more. But hopefully this shows you, especially in a group setting, there's a lot of different lenses and perceptions of which you can view a situation. And a lot of things can be inspiring in different ways to different people. So really, remember, our goal is to get as many ideas as possible. Someone could look at one thing a certain way and see something or be inspired in a completely different way, or it could spark something. What did you all think of this technique compared to the other ones? This one? Visual? Yeah, it's a good visual one. Any other thoughts? No? No other thoughts? All right. So again, remember, we can spend a lot of time on each of these. This is just to kind of give you a quick like sampling of everything. But the most important thing to think about is like, what happens now, right? So we spent all this time to do ideation. We actually have to act on it. We have to do something about it. It does us no good if we just spend all this time to think about it, but we don't actually make anything work. So if we think back to that design process, that like design thinking cycle, remember now is the time that we would, after we do the whole ideation piece, is when we would start to figure out what are those 1 or 2 best ideas that we've come up with, or maybe the things that just seem to like really hit home. Like we came up with them like 10 times and we're like we should probably just go with this one, you know, like this keeps seeming to like trend across the board. That's when we would move to that next phase. There's like in here, it should almost be like a decision-making process for ideation to then start to prototype something. And maybe we have a couple of different prototypes, like our MVP, right? We're going to go test it out this way, test it out this way. But really this gets us into that actual building part. We have to actually talk to people and see if what we came up with makes sense and fits. So I would maybe come up with that best idea. Maybe my best idea was the rocks, right? Now I'm going to go and get a prototype of a rock. I'm going to go actually talk to some teenagers and see if this is really the kind of pillow that they would want to use. Or maybe I'm going to go during their lunch period at school. I'm going to like sneak in and try to sell it. Do people actually buy it then? I need to actually test out what I was thinking. At that point, and that's kind of comes in, so I came up with my prototype, which is the rock. I start to implement it, which is actually trying to test it out. I'm going and talking to actual people who could give me money for it. And then I evaluate. Does that make sense? Nope, I can't even get into schools because I don't have like a high school ID, right? So that's not going to work. No one wants to buy a rock as a pillow. So now I need to go back to the drawing board. Maybe I skipped right here because I still have the same problem. I need to go back and figure out what are some other ways that I can now ideate on it or pull another solution that I came up with. But just as a reminder, kind of the biggest things I want you to take away from this is that this is one part of the process. This is not a Band-Aid solution. This does not solve all the problems. It is one piece to it. This is also a way that helps us come up with new ideas outside of what normally constrains us, outside of our normal limitations. So we need to get as many ideas as possible, and we need to make sure that we do not evaluate them, do not critique them, do not judge them until after the fact. Because even what could be a bad idea with some work and with some teamwork, some team effort, could actually be a good idea. And here's actually my information. Again, I have cards up here. But if you have any questions, either about what we kind of went over today or other things in general related to Future Founders or your business, please feel free to reach out. There you go.
So let's give Katie a hand first and foremost, folks. So before we wrap up, What, you guys were just like all into this. Tell me some of the ideas, no? You guys have some great ideas. You guys are into it. But here, this is just a small example of what Katie's organization, Future Founders, can do for you guys. And this is actually just a fun example of it, and you're not even making money yet. So just imagine if you could take it to the next step by collaborating with other people who are like-minded to help you go to the next level of ideation. So again, thank you so much, Katie, for being with us
Thank
today.
you.
You guys hang around a little bit, chat with Katie. If you have any questions, chat with me as well. And thank you for coming to another CODEC episode show. Thank you, folks.